Hey, welcome back to the stash. Okay, I know, once again I am late to the party, but has Spidey ever been on time before?
Sorry I'm late, it's a jungle out there. I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get these cranberries.
You just know it's a good day when there's a new USM comic. When I get that email saying my local comic store has taken even more money out of my account, I first feel an overwhelming sense of panic and dread for the fact that I'm spending instead of saving money, but then I remember, hang on a second, it's Ultimate Spider-Man, not amazing, and then boom, instantly I turn my frown upside down. So join us today as we go over the latest installment of the current best ongoing Spidey series, Ultimate Spider-Man issue 10. But before we get into that, I want to take a quick second to let you all know that here at the Stash we are trying to reach 4,000 subscribers before the end of the year. I know it's a huge ask, but with your help I know we can do it. So if you're new around here and you like Spidey or just comic content in general, feel free to stick around and maybe hit that subscribe button. But anyway, with all that being said, let's get straight back into the video. The Maker prevented a radioactive spider from biting a young Peter Parker. He likewise prevented the creation of any other superheroes and formed the secret council to rule the world from the shadows. 9 months ago, Tony Stark sent Peter that exact same radioactive spider along with a picotech suit and warnings of the Maker's Council. Since then, Peter has used his incredible powers granted by the spider's bite to fight crime alongside Green Goblin, aka Harry Osborn, the co-CEO of OSCORP. Meanwhile, Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson have launched an underground news organization called The Paper after departing the Daily Bugle over creative differences with its new owner Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin. Our story begins with Ben Parker ready to pick up J. Jonah Jameson, his business partner and best friend. He informs JJJ that they have a very long drive ahead of them, for there's a certain lawyer set to be in Long Island. Jonah asks how Ben finally managed to pull this meeting off, considering the Fisk Empire has been making things quite difficult. Ben explains that after trying to see him for weeks without any luck, he got tired of playing by the rules. Later in Long Island, Wesley is trying to enjoy a nice meal until J. Jonah Jameson and Ben Parker come crashing through. He tries to brush them off, but they sit down anyway. Ben tries to explain the situation to Wesley, but he attempts to get under their skin. He calls the paper charming, nothing more than a G-rated appeal to upper middle class recreational revolutionaries. He continues to bash their stories about superheroes all in an effort to prove his point. Ben keeps a level head and slides a document across the table. In it shows Wesley's signature along with an agreement of the sale of Stan & Stark Industries to an offshore company that's owned by another offshore company and so on. Ben was hoping that Wesley could save them a bit of trouble and say where it all leads, but if need be he'll dig all the way to the source. Wesley acts confused and tells them he couldn't imagine how it'd be of use. Ben asks if his boss might be any more help, which leaves Wesley giving off a cold glare. He then begins to tell them that from his point of view, the paperwork seems to be showing someone removing themselves from anything having to do with Stan & Stark Industries, and he suggests for them to look elsewhere. Jonah asks sarcastically if that's right. Wesley responds he couldn't tell them whether that's right or wrong. To do so, he'd need his files to confirm that his paperwork matches theirs, and that's something he's simply not prepared to do for today. Ben asks about if tomorrow is on the cards. Wesley declines with a mini threat, and then finally security arrived to escort the two out. 1 week later and the pair have finally found something. Jonah asks Ben to walk him through the title chain one more time. This is what they have. So, Stan & Stark is sold to a holding company called TSSC. There the assets are split into two companies, one SS Securities and the U65 company. The second one remains dormant. Zero activity, there's nothing there. So they must assume that SS, which is a possible moniker for Stan & Stark, is what they're looking for. And that seems about right because it's sold and resold every month between a series of shell corporations. Now it takes 30 days for the paperwork to go through, but each time without fail during those 30 days it gets sold again, staying one step ahead of them and anyone else who's looking for it, making it a borderline snipe hunt. After the rundown, Jonah begins to ponder. Ben asks if he thinks they're wrong. Jonah goes to the board and begins to tinker with it. To him, it all just seems too perfect in his eyes. So he went back and looked at the other company, U65, and you'll never guess who owns it. That's right, OSCORP. Fast forward another week and Ben and Jonah set out to meet with Gwen Stacy. She asks what she can do for them, but they're a little hesitant. The subject is a little delicate and they wouldn't want to upset her, but she assures them that nothing of the such would happen. Ben swiftly explains the situation. He mentions that one of the reporters is working on a story. They'd like to tell her about it and then ask a few questions. Gwen agrees to hear them out. Jonah goes over the evidence they found and how they've come to the conclusion that OSCORP owns Stain & Stark Industries. Gwen's smile fades as she asks for the identity of the reporter. Ben says they can get into that eventually, but first, they have a few questions of their own. Like firstly, who arranged the deal to buy the company? Why are they working so hard to hide the fact that they own Stain & Stark? What happened to all the technology? But why do all these things coincide with people suddenly flying through the air in armored suits? And finally, they're wondering if they are the ones secretly financing all of it. Jonah asks if Gwen cares to comment about all of this, and she pauses. But then, she suddenly exclaims that she wants her money back. Sometime later at Peter and Mary Jane's apartment, Pete's having some difficulty beating his son Richard in a game of chess. Meanwhile, Ben and MJ are cleaning up the dishes after the family dinner. Mary Jane informs Ben that Gwen called and told her all about what went down at OSCORP. Ben tries to explain his and Jonah's actions. He asks if Gwen told her about what they talked about. MJ said she didn't get into details of it, but one thing's for certain, she was not happy. Luckily for the paper, due to its success, Mary Jane is pretty close to lining up some other advertisers, meaning that if Gwen's funding is pulled, they wouldn't completely collapse. However, she'd like a little bit of more time, yet Ben is set on publishing the story whenever it's ready, for it's simply the business they're in. MJ asks if Peter has anything to add, because this could very well blow up everything they've done, but he's not too concerned. And also, considering Gwen is still a client of Mary Jane, she also wanted to know how long they have until they run the story. Ben sternly replies with, "Tell her she's got a week." A couple days later, and a hesitant Harry Osborn stands outside the paper's building. Before he enters, he whispers to himself that he hopes in case things go wrong, that Peter can forgive him. He takes one more deep breath and walks on in. Ben and Jonah are stood there waiting for him. Once Harry enters, Jonah takes cash out of Ben's wallet. Harry asks, "What's this all about?" Ben tells him that after he told MJ Gwen had a week before the story was published, him and Jonah had a secret little bet to see how long it would take for one of you to show up. Jonah took the under 3 days option. JJJ says it's because he's a student of human nature, and because he knows a good bet when he sees one. Harry for the most part brushes it off and gets straight down to business. He asks the two, what does he need to do for them not to write that story about OSCORP and what their company may or may not own. Jonah keeps a playful tone and acts confused about this so-called OSCORP story. He asks Ben if they're writing one. Ben plays along, of course, and Harry is slowly getting more agitated and assertively tells them that he's not here to play games. Ben clarifies that neither are they, and tells Harry that even though they've only spoken a handful of times, and that he and his father have had some complicated interactions in the past, he truly believes that him buying and hiding Stain & Stark would be from a place of good intentions. Harry asks, how would he know anything about his intentions? Ben continues by saying because his wife died at the same time and the same way his parents did, and like his friend Jonah, he believes that he too is a student of the human behavior. Harry then asks for some clarifications about the story they're writing. Jonah states that as he told Gwen, it's hard not to notice the coordinated timing between OSCORP taking that company over and the emergence of the green armor flying around through the air. Ben adds that what they think is pretty simple. OSCORP took pre-existing Iron Man technology, slapped a new coat of paint over it and shined it up real nice for a new show. But on top of that, they also have come to the conclusion that either Harry or his wife is secretly inside that suit. Harry stands in silence contemplating his next move when all of a sudden he threatens them to leave his wife out of it all, revealing to Ben and Jonah that he is the Green Goblin. Ben looks at Jonah as he hands over the cash back. Harry annoyingly asks if they're being serious. Jonah says he betted on it being his wife. Harry finally cracks after that and demands for them to stop, for he's had enough, and insinuates that now that his identity is at jeopardy, he might have to do something about it. Ben and Jonah, level-headed as always, makes it clear that they aren't writing a Green Goblin expose. Harry yells, demanding for answers about what they're truly doing. Ben finally gives his real question. They now know that Fisk enabled the sale of the company to OSCORP, and they also know that Harry and his spider friend have been waging a two-person war on that Fisk empire. So why would Wilson Fisk sell Harry the thing that he's using to destroy him? Harry explains that it's because Wilson had no idea that deep within Stain & Stark was a hidden record of what Fisk and the people who control Fisk have been up to for decades. But Harry found that record. He learned about how evil they truly are, and he believes they must be stopped. He then reaches into his pocket. Ben asks, what is it? Harry pauses and makes note of how he came here thinking that he was going to have to stop them by any means necessary or help them get to the bottom of things. He believed the latter would be easier, but now all of a sudden he finds himself scared to do so. He never thought it would be so easy to put it all together the way they just did. Jonah assures him that it's anything but easy. They just make it look that way. Harry, filled with grief, says that they're the ones who did it, who killed his parents, who killed Ben's wife. Peter said that he can trust them. He then asked if he really can. Ben simply replies with, yeah. So Harry hands over the USB. It's got everything OSCORP has on record about the man who made this world the way it is, his council that's running it, what really happened with the Starks, and yes, Wilson Fisk. Harry warns them that they have to be 100% sure that they're up for the task to write this story because these people are beyond dangerous and ruthless. Ben and Jonah have friends, families. They're all targets, which relates to the reason why Harry even wears a mask in the first place. He'd never want his name attached with anything to do with this. Ben smirks and says, "Who says we were?" Later, as the moon shines over the night sky, Jonah has just finished writing the article. They're ready. They're ready to unleash a story so big, so explosive, the world may never be the same again. And it's brought to you exclusively by the paper's brand new, top secret investigative prodigy, Ben Reilly. My god, what an issue. The fact that they didn't even need to have Spider-Man within this comic to make it as captivating as it was truly is a testament to how good Hickman is as a writer. His absence, to me at least, wasn't even felt. From the first page, the first speech bubble, I was just enthralled by the plot and everything going on. This issue properly allowed the spotlight to rightfully shine on Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson, and I couldn't be more happier. I love their banter, how their interactions together as a whole is just so good. The way they bounce off each other in every scene, slowly getting under the person's skin, be it Wesley or even Harry Osborn, just shows that these two are veterans in the game. Hickman, I thought, did a fantastic job with the pacing of this issue. It never felt to, drag on, nor fly by too quick. Things moved steadily and gave each moment a chance to breathe, resulting in the ending having such a proper impact. Seeing Ben Reilly's name on their article was just the cherry on top and a perfect tribute to Aunt May. Now, this issue just set up a major part within the entire attack on Fisk, and I honestly can't wait to see the effects Ben and Jonah's article will have moving forward, not just on them, but to their families as well as potentially the Osborns. Speaking of, I found it super interesting that we got to see how this Gwen is just a tad more ruthless and cunning than the 616 version, and in ways, almost like how Liz Allen turned out to be. Harry is more like the voice of reason between the two, but granted he does lose his head quite a bit like in this issue and the one before. I really like this gradual build-up with Harry Osborn just slowly turning a bit more insane as each issue goes on and a bit more unhinged. But anyway, David Messina returns as the guest artist for this issue, and I believe he'll do so again next time. But I gotta say, I thought his work here was much better than the last one, and I'm not sure if it's just because he's refined his pencils, but it felt like he managed to just properly capture Kikito's look and feel for the characters more, and for that I really appreciate his work. As villains go, he's definitely not a bad choice, and I'm pretty satisfied to see his name whenever Kikito isn't around. Now overall, Ultimate Spider-Man issue 10 takes a bold and unexpected route with having Spider-Man not even show up for a single panel, yet somehow Hickman managed to make it work in his favour, for he delivered a brilliant and captivating story while primarily focused on Ben Parker and J. Jonah Jameson, who have just unleashed a massive bombshell upon the Marvel world. In fact, because of this issue, it's given me an even deeper appreciation for this unexpected duo. They just work so well together, and I can't get enough of how Hickman writes the pair. This book is a must-read for Spider-Man fans. It obviously destroys ASM, not just in terms of quality of writing, but also in sales. This book is constantly sold out while ASM struggles to sell a single copy of an issue released months ago. Hell, I went to the comic store the other day, and I noticed while I was getting ready to pay for my items, they have multiple boxes worth of, I believe, Amazing Spider-Man issue 25, just stacks of it in boxes, unsold, not even touched. So all I have to say is for everyone to keep up the good work and support the book that deserves it. If you're going to be buying a Spider-Man comic, then make sure it's this one, because for the first time in a very long time, we finally have something that's very special in our hands. Psst, guys, you'll never guess what happens in the next amazing Spider-Man issue. It gets worse!